This Sportz Blitz podcast is brought to you by LMG. Grow your business through logo design, paper products, and video production. Visit leemarketing.net to learn more.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Sportz Blitz Live. Luke Robinson with you. Want to welcome in a special guest now, Mr. Chuck Dean of AL.com and the Birmingham News. How are you doing tonight, Chuck?
I'm good. I hope you are.
Doing really well. Doing very good as a native Alabamian after reading your article talking about Alabamians in the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame. It's really incredible. I don't think people knew how big of an influence this state has had over Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I think if you're an older person, a given age, someone who grew up in the late 50s or through the 60s, you probably have a better handle on that than if you're under 40. Yeah, it's quite a legacy, and I was very aware of it. I grew up in Mobile and played baseball through college, and I was very aware of the Hall of Famers from the Mobile area, and really, which is a list of who's who in baseball. But throughout the state, it's a remarkable legacy that they have, and I do think probably many Alabamians have believing correctly that we have become such a football-centered state are probably not aware of just how heavy Alabama natives, Alabama-born players are in at Cooperstown.
Yeah, it's really amazing when you read the article and you see Alabama, the state, has produced 7 NFL Hall of Famers, and that's a big time achievement, no doubt. But 12 baseball Hall of Fame members, and it's one thing to say, oh, I knew Ozzie Smith was from the state, I knew Hank Aaron was from Alabama, but when you see all these names grouped together, I mean, I would put these names up against any other state in the union.
I believe, I'm going to say this, and I think this is true. I read this some time ago that Alabama is among, in terms of its population, it's among one of the top 3-4 states in the nation in terms of Hall of Famers that we put into Cooperstown, and in the city of Mobile, but it's 5 that Mobile's metro population is probably 450,000, and only L.A. and New York City, which are obviously huge places, have more native-born players in the Hall of Fame than Mobile does by itself. So it's a remarkable feat.
It truly is, and 11 of them were players, and then the 12th one you talk about, Mel Allen. Tell everybody a little bit about Mel.
Mel Allen grew up in Birmingham. He was in public. He had graduated from the University of Alabama, where he began calling some of Alabama's early baseball games. Did some basketball games. I'm not sure if Mr. Allen ever did football games, but he was a fairly young man and got into the advertising business and moved up and moved to New York to take a job with an ad agency there, and he continued to want to do play-by-play, and through some friends and through connections, he got a shot one day and got invited by the Yankees down to some spring training games where he did some exhibition games, and lo and behold, he gets the job as a play-by-play man for the stable New York Yankees. He had a very southern accent. It was very different for New Yorkers, but it was a voice that if you heard it one time, you would always remember it. And he was one of the first announcers, play-by-play guys, to go into the Hall of Fame.
That's amazing to me that an Alabama native gets arguably the best play-by-play job in all of sports, or at least the most recognizable, and it's for a team called the Yankees. That's ironic to say the least.
It is ironic because while Mel Allen was doing Yankees games, the crosstown rival Dodgers, their games were being done by a man named Red Barber, who grew up in Columbus, Mississippi, and had a very distinctive voice they were both native Southerners, and for years they dominated the airwaves in New York with their kind of play-by-play. I don't know if New Yorkers consider it quaint or whatever, but both of those men had such distinctive deliveries that when you heard them, you would want to hear them again.
Well, Chuck, you write in a series called Connecting Alabama for AL.com. I encourage everybody to go check it out. Talk about some of the other stories that you have written for AL.com.
I've written stories that range from everything from guys who have a meet and three, who do that each day. A guy who fought City Hall, lost his business, and to an expansion by county government, and had to start over, and he did in a gas station with a meet and three, cooking basic Southern food. In November, I talked to a gentleman who was an ex-Marine who had fought on Iwo Jima. He was a medic, a corpsman, I should say. He was a corpsman, and I wrote a story about him in November. His name was Harold Jarvis, and I talked to him on a Tuesday, and he was not in good shape. He had cancer, and before I could get his story, and I wanted to run it Friday, he died on Thursday. And I wrote his story, and I wrote it from a first-person perspective, and he got a lot of play. He said things about battle that you don't often hear in the detail that he told it. I've written stories. Right now I'm doing a series of stories on heroin, on the effects of heroin in families, on both individuals and just everyday Alabama people who, most of them, if you would pass them in Walmart or someplace, you would never know the kind of terrible difficulties that those families endure when one of their kids get cooked on that. It's stories about funny stuff. It's stories about some stuff that will tear you up. It's a cross section. It's an old kind of journalism. We live in a new age, but they've asked me to go and do something that is really old form storytelling and do it on this new thing called the web, and we're having a good time with it.
Well, Chuck, thanks so much for joining us tonight. It really is a fascinating story. I encourage, again, everybody to go check it out on AL.com. You can find it right there in the sports section. And, Chuck, best of luck to you, and continue putting out great articles, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate the time. Have a good evening.
You too, Chuck. That was Chuck Dean with AL.com. Appreciate his being with us tonight. We'll be back in just a minute with more Sportz Blitz Live.